On my 45th birthday, the surprise my family promised was a video of them abroad without me, and when I answered with my own photos, the flood of calls that followed couldn't erase the silence I finally chose. The promise of a surprise. For weeks leading up to my birthday, my wife and parents kept dropping hints. "Don't plan anything," they said. "We've got a surprise for you. Just wait," they said, and I believed them. I cleared my schedule, told friends I'd be busy with family, even dressed up that morning with a small spark of excitement. But as the hours passed, the house stayed quiet. No knock on the door. No car pulling up. Then just as I was beginning to wonder if they were running late, a notification buzzed on my phone. A video. I pressed play and my blood ran cold. It was my wife, my parents, my siblings, all of them smiling, laughing, raising glasses in some European cafe. They waved at the camera like this was funny. "Happy birthday," my wife shouted. "We didn't want you to be hurt by this," my father added, chuckling. "We're celebrating here. You'll understand." The video ended with them clinking glasses. For a long moment, I sat there staring at the phone. No cake, no family, no surprise, unless betrayal counted as one. 45 years old, and the people I trusted most had just erased me from my own life. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't beg for an explanation. I simply sat in that silence, letting the anger cool into something sharper because I knew I wouldn't need to shout. I wouldn't need to chase them. All I needed was one move. And when I made it, they would come running to me. The counter-surprise. I didn't reply to their video. Not a word. Not even a sarcastic thanks. Instead, I sat back, let the sting wash over me, and thought carefully. If they wanted to make me invisible, I would make myself unforgettable. That evening, as they sipped wine in Europe, I met with someone they had all conveniently forgotten about. Someone whose presence in my life would flip the script completely. It wasn't another relative. It wasn't a business associate. It was someone who carried weight in a way my so-called family never could. An old friend of my late father, a man they had all dismissed as irrelevant. But to me, he wasn't irrelevant. He was loyal. He was powerful. And more importantly, he was willing to stand beside me when no one else would. We took a photo together at dinner. Nothing flashy, just two men raising glasses, a cake on the table, and genuine smiles. I didn't caption it with anger. I didn't explain the betrayal. I simply wrote, "A birthday well spent. Some guests mean more than the whole world." Then I posted it. Within minutes, my notifications exploded. Friends, acquaintances, even distant relatives saw the post. Many of them knew who was in the picture. They understood what it meant, and word traveled fast. By the time my so-called family saw it, sipping champagne in their European hotel, it was too late. They had written me off, but I had reminded everyone else who I truly was. And that's when the calls began. 1, 2, 10, 50. By midnight, the number had climbed into the hundreds. They had left me alone on my 45th birthday with nothing but a cruel video. But all it took was one photo, one carefully chosen guest to turn the tables. And the irony, they were the ones begging now, desperate for me to pick up. 290 missed calls. The night after my post felt surreal. I hadn't thrown a party. I hadn't invited dozens of people, just one carefully chosen guest and a single photo. Yet the effect it had was louder than any celebration my family could have staged. By morning, my phone log was overflowing. 290 calls. Calls from my wife, calls from my parents, calls from relatives who had been laughing with them in Europe only hours earlier. What started as mocking silence from them the day before had now flipped into desperate noise. Each ring was proof of their panic. I didn't answer a single one. The irony wasn't lost on me. They had thought excluding me would make me small, irrelevant, forgotten. But the truth was their absence revealed who they were. Selfish, arrogant, and cruel. Meanwhile, that one photo had revealed who I was. Calm, steady, connected in ways they didn't expect. My mentor's presence in the picture was a message they couldn't ignore. I wasn't weak. I wasn't abandoned, and I wasn't alone. They had abandoned me on my birthday, yet the world now saw them as the ones on the outside. The text started flooding in next. "Please call us back. You misunderstood. We didn't mean it like that. You're embarrassing the family. Take it down." But the truth was, I hadn't embarrassed them. They had embarrassed themselves. And my silence simply let the world see it. On my 45th birthday, they thought a cruel video would leave me powerless. But by the end of the week, their endless calls proved the truth. I wasn't the forgotten one. I was the one they couldn't ignore. The confrontation they never expected. I didn't reach out. I didn't explain. I didn't even acknowledge the 290 calls. But silence has a way of cornering people. And soon enough, they had no choice but to come to me. It was 3 days later when I heard the knock at my door. Not a polite tap. A desperate, frantic pounding. When I opened it, there stood my wife, her face pale, my parents just behind her looking worn and anxious. They didn't look like people returning from a European vacation. They looked like people caught in the middle of a scandal they couldn't control. "Why didn't you answer?" my wife hissed. "Do you realize what you've done?" Her voice was trembling, not with anger, but with fear. I let them inside, but said nothing at first. My silence weighed heavier than any insult. Finally, I asked, "Why should I answer? On my birthday, I was nothing to you. Not even worth a chair at the table, but one photo. And suddenly, I'm everything you can't ignore. I'm everything." Their faces tightened. My father tried to brush it off. "It was a joke. You're overreacting." I cut him short. "A joke to erase me from my own life. To laugh in my face while you celebrated with my brother." The room went dead quiet. My wife stepped forward, her hands shaking. "People are talking. You don't understand. That photo with him. It's dangerous. Take it down." Before she stopped, biting her lip, realizing she'd said too much. And that's when it clicked. The man in my birthday photo wasn't just an old friend to me. He was a reminder to them of the one person who could unravel their lies, their finances, their carefully polished image. They had erased me with laughter, thinking I was powerless. Now they stood in my living room, begging, terrified of a single photo. And for the first time in years, the power wasn't theirs. It was mine. The truth behind their fear. The silence in the room was thick. My wife's slip had revealed more than she intended. And now they all looked at each other nervously, as though waiting for someone else to speak first. I leaned forward, my voice calm. "Why are you so afraid of a photo? He's just a man I had dinner with, right? Or is there something more? Something you've been hiding?" My mother's eyes darted away. My father cleared his throat and my wife's hands trembled as she crossed her arms tightly. Finally, my father snapped. "You don't know what you're playing with. That man has the power to destroy everything we've built. If people think you're aligned with him, the questions will start. And once they start, everything comes out." Piece by piece, the picture fell into place. My family's wealth wasn't as stable as they portrayed. They'd been propped up by deals, shady ones my brother had orchestrated. The man in my birthday photo wasn't just my father's friend. He was an old investor who knew every corner they had cut, every shortcut they had taken. My wife's European trip with my brother hadn't just been for fun. It had been part of their attempt to secure themselves to him, betting that I was out of the picture for good. And now that single photo threatened to expose the whole rotten structure. My wife reached for my hand, her voice shaky. "Please take it down. We can talk. We can fix this. But don't let him use you to ruin us." I pulled my hand back. "Fix this? On my birthday, you laughed in my face from Europe. You erased me. Erased everything I've done for this family. And now you want me to protect you?" No one answered. They couldn't. They had thought I was powerless, expendable, irrelevant. But the truth was, I held the photo. And the ally that could unravel everything they'd tried to build on betrayal. And as I watched them squirm, one thought settled into my mind like steel. They weren't afraid of me. They were afraid of what I could become. The power shift. They stood in my living room, their voices cracking, their pride long gone. For years, they had treated me like an outsider, someone they could erase at will. But now, the balance had shifted, and they knew it. My father tried to soften his tone. "Listen, you don't understand the bigger picture. That man in your photo? He's dangerous. If people think you're aligned with him, we'll lose everything." I leaned back, letting his words hang. "No," I said evenly. "You'll lose everything. I already lost what mattered when you erased me from my own birthday. I have nothing left to fear." The truth was a blade they couldn't parry. My wife stepped closer, tears welling in her eyes. "I was wrong. Okay, I should have been here. I should have stood by you. But please don't use this against us. Don't destroy your own family." The word family stung. Family didn't leave you with a cruel video while they toasted your 45th birthday in Europe. Family didn't laugh at your absence. I met her eyes coldly. "You made your choice, and now you'll live with it." For the first time, they weren't the ones dictating terms. They weren't mocking or controlling me. They were begging. My silence had become my weapon. My calm had become their fear. And the beauty of it, I didn't have to lift a finger. The power was already mine. On my birthday, they believed I was irrelevant. But now, standing in my living room, pale and desperate, they finally understood I wasn't the forgotten one. I was the one holding their fate. They sat across from me, their voices trembling, their faces pale. My wife tried to hold back tears. My parents looked like shadows of the proud figures who once mocked me. They had come here expecting to bargain, maybe even intimidate. Instead, they had found themselves powerless. I stood slowly, walking toward the window, looking out over the city lights. My silence forced them to shift uncomfortably in their seats. Finally, I turned back. "You wanted me gone. You celebrated my absence. You erased me with laughter. And now you're begging for me to save you from the same man you all dismissed. Tell me, why should I?" The question landed like a hammer. None of them answered. Because they knew the truth. They had nothing left to offer. I could have destroyed them that night with a word. I could have sent a single message that would unravel every deal, every mask, every illusion they clung to. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I let them sweat. I let them live with the uncertainty, the fear of not knowing when or how the blow would come. That was more powerful than striking immediately. Leave, I said calmly. When the time comes, you'll know my decision. Until then, don't call me. Don't speak to me. You lost that privilege on my birthday. They left in silence, their footsteps heavy with dread. On my 45th birthday, they believed I was powerless, but as they walked out of my house, heads bowed, they finally understood. I wasn't just holding a photo. I was holding their future. Chapter 8. Epilogue. The long shadow of regret. Time passed, but the memory of my 45th birthday never left them. What they thought was just a joke, a cruel prank to exclude me, became the fracture line that split their carefully crafted world apart. The business contacts who once respected them began to look elsewhere. Every time they walked into a room, whispers followed. Not about me, but about how they abandoned their own son for arrogance and greed. The dignity they had spent a lifetime building was gone, and they knew it. For my wife, the weight of regret was even heavier. The man she had chosen to stand with, my brother, was unraveling under the very power she had mocked me for having. When his influence crumbled, she was left holding nothing. She tried calling again, writing long messages about mistakes and forgiveness, but I never responded because forgiveness can't fix betrayal. Meanwhile, I thrived. The mentor in my photo wasn't just a reminder of loyalty. He became a partner. Together, we rebuilt what my family tried to strip from me. My silence turned into strength. My absence from their celebration became the seed of my own empire. And every year since when my birthday comes, I celebrate not with bitterness but with gratitude because their betrayal revealed who truly stood beside me. They once laughed in Europe saying, "He won't be hurt by this." They were right in a way. I wasn't hurt. I was transformed. And the only ones left truly hurting year after year were them. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Tell us what you think about this story in the comments below. Like the story if you think this story is justified. Share it with someone who needs this energy. And subscribe to Lauren's Story for more jaw-dropping tales of betrayal and justice. Because here, every lie has its reckoning. And every betrayal finds its shadow. Stay sharp, stay strong, and stay tuned.